John Coltrane was from North Carolina.
All right, he definitely beats Journey, but it's like apples and oranges.
You know who else? You know who else we got?
He played the xylophone, right?
George Clinton. George Clinton.
Oh, really?
From P-Funk, Funkadelic, yeah.
Is that why you didn't have a roof on your place? You tore the roof off of
it? You're too good. I got a quick question for you, Max. And I think I've asked this from you before, but do you like gnocco frito?
Sure, yeah. You
I know
cook
you
it, I'll
do
eat it.
because I saw you eating some just the other night. So, hey, everybody, my name is Jim Kennedy, and this is Stay Home Wine Sessions. Tonight is our third episode of the 15th series. They are just peeling off, Max. And we're featuring the Fortana. The name of the wine is S15E3. It's an IGT wine, and it's from Mirco Marioti. Joining me as always, my good pal and co-host. You guys know him as Lo Brindisi. His uncle's wine shop, Al Brindisi, is making an appearance in the presentation tonight. Max, do you want to say hi to everybody?
And you just stole my thunder. Can't believe it. I don't really have much. Last time Jim and I went to the Hall of Science out in Golden Gate Park, I asked him why the snake doesn't like to be pressed up against the glass. And he said because he doesn't want to be a windshield viper.
I love that you're laughing at that. People are actually laughing. That's incredible. All right. Some quick announcements before we get this thing started, guys. So the 16th series is going to be, it's 2 weeks away starting from today. So we're going to take off next week for Thanksgiving. We're going to take off the week following. So is that 3 weeks? It's 3 weeks. So the next series starts December 10th. I know a couple of you have already registered for it. Super appreciate that. It is a little bit more expensive than our regular program. We're putting some pretty serious wines in. So for my Bay Area people, it's $215, and then shipping for everybody outside of that. So just hit us up. Let us know if you want to be in or out. You got a little time to choose. The wines are sick. We have a Brut Nature French Corta, so that means no sugary stuff added. So it's super dry, zero residual sugar. That's a sparkling wine from Lombardia. We also have a beautiful Verdicchio from Cooper Montana in the Marche, as well as I think we're going to do another Arpepe wine, probably from Inferno. Inferno is one of the sub-districts. And then we also have 2015. This is for my friends up in Oregon that just had their first Barolo not too long ago. We're having another Barolo 2015 from Principiano, which disappeared from the market for a little while. So we're really stoked to bring that to you guys. Yeah, it's a sick lineup. We're not messing around. So definitely let us know. I put some of you on the list, even though you haven't even signed up, because I know that you're going to be in anyway. But if you want on, just let us know. I'll make sure that you're on. The next show. Okay, guys, I just want to make sure that you see this. Everybody look at your monitor. This is the bottle that you should have tonight. I know that I sent out a bunch of confusing emails this week. So it's the one that has all the really nice coloring pencils on it. Just make sure that that's the wine that you have, and I'll review this label again shortly. But I just want to make sure that we don't screw up. The Bioncalela is the white wine. That's what we're having on Saturday. That's November 21st. So just keep an eye out for that. Hopefully nobody has that wine open right now, because that was part of the screw up of my emails this week. Okay, we know that everybody misses shows. If you do, just ask Max or myself. We do have recordings of everything uploaded to YouTube. We can certainly get those for you, within 12 to 18 hours, 24 tops, unless something goes horribly wrong. Also, website confinal.com. If you want to share our work with your friends, family, whatever. If you're promoting us, this is a great way. Also, the Instagram page, Stay Home Wine Sessions. Notice the 3 underscores, stay_home_wine_sessions. And then lastly, I know that I've spoken with a few of you about the mini kits. These things are still going. Happy to keep talking about those too as we go. Just a shout out to all of you and Max and Flory. Just thank you guys, Circa. Thank you, Marion, everybody that's helped us, Andrew Chan, that's been just giving us input and feedback. It's invaluable. So if you guys have it, don't be afraid to share it. If you think it's a great idea or it's something that Max and I should check out, we want to get better. So definitely give us feedback. We want to hear from you. The other thing is just the basic tips, right? So number one, make sure that you save a glass. This is a wine that could be pretty easy to drink today. So I could definitely see some people getting to the sensory segment of the show and not having wine. So if you think you might be one of those people, just pour yourself a quarter of a glass separate from the one that you're drinking, set it to the side, and then circle back when we get to towards the end of the program. Secondly, use the chat. We love hearing from you. It's also a really great tool for academic retention. So if you have questions, put them out there. As soon as they get out into the atmosphere, even if we don't get to them, we most likely will, but if we don't get to them, it's something that you'll continue to ponder, and maybe you'll find the answers offline, which is not the worst thing in the world. Lastly, just a quick look for label ID. So once again, guys, just make sure, please make sure that this is the wine that you have in front of you. I'm so sorry for the screw ups in the emails. I'm not going to apologize for it anymore, but I promise this is the wine that you should be drinking tonight. It should be chilled. It should be open. You should be swirling it, smelling it, and drinking it, and continuing to do so throughout the presentation this evening. All right. So just a quick note on the other things that I always hammer home on everybody. So number one, we're talking about a region, or a country rather, the country of Italy, that has 20 regions. Within those 20 regions, there are close to 1,500 native grape varieties. Point being is that these things, this subject matter can get really overwhelming and confusing. And we just want you to know that if that's the case, then you're in a really good place, honestly, because it's something that we deal with on really on an hourly basis. It's humbling and it's vast, and it's the best part is that we end up with all of these questions. The other thing is that I've also mentioned a couple of times, and I don't think that this gets lost on any of you. I just think that it's incredibly profound that all of us are on this platform together. And by together, I mean that we're all here, whether you're super engaged and interactive with us, or if you're sitting back and just watching the melee. Either way, I think it's a beautiful thing when you consider how we're all from different places, and yet here we are, and what's bringing us together are these wonderful wines. Which brings me to the next piece, the importance of the second glass. We hope that you'll reach for the second glass, that you find enjoyment in these wines, maybe the third, maybe the fourth, maybe you finish the bottle. Maybe you have a high level of discipline and you just have a half a glass or a glass, and that's totally fine too. The main thing is that these wines are compelling and that you find them delicious. So Max, on that note, I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'll let you walk us through this label. You can tell us about the colors and stuff, because there's not a ton to talk about.
I don't really know anything about this crayon art. Crayon. Okay, there's only 3 words on the front of the bottle. It says set e mezzo, and that's short for sette e mezzo, which is Italian for 7.5, or in English, it's 7.5. In Spanish, it's known as siete y media. And here we have it's a card game, and it's a little bit like blackjack in that it's comparative. You compete against the dealer, and our winemaker is a recreational set e mezzo player. That's the 7 of swords and the king of coins displayed on the screen from an old Roman deck. All right, the back tells you the name of the winemaker, Mirco Marioti, and then again, Sette Mezzo, the name of the wine. Rosato, so this is new. If you've poured it in the glass, you've already discovered it's a rosé, a rosato, rose color. Of Emilia, del Emilia da Uve Fortana. So the grape Fortana of Emilia. So I guess we're in Emilia. And it is an Indicazione Geografica Tipica, or IGT. And an IGT is a couple of steps back from the specific laws that govern a DOCG or a DOC. Those are, I think, reserved for more traditional wines where they dictate the grape, the yields. I mean, there's still alcohol expectations, but an IGT is a little closer to like what we have here in California, where if it's from the place, you can kind of pick your grapes. It's a little stricter than, I mean, here you just have to come from the place, pretty much. It says it's a red wine, which is interesting. Product of Italy, red wine. I don't know if you caught that, Jim, because it doesn't seem like a red wine. Contains sulfites, alcohol 12.5% by volume, right in the zone for us, 12.5% alcohol. And it is produced and bottled, so 100% made by Marioti and then imported by Portovino. Great website Portovino has. I like their ethos. They say they're not looking for the worst farmer's wine or the best industrial one. They're looking for dedicated and sensitive growers who are making wines with character, yet reflective of the grape varieties and soils. So I like their ethos. I like their website. It's worth a look.
It's pretty clear.
All right, let's take a look at the Emilia map, please. Now that we've dispensed with the bottle. Okay, 20 regions. We are in one of them, Emilia Romagna, shown in red here. As you can see, we're still kind of in the northerly region, but we're not on the border. So we are not in fighting zone. But I think something to bear in mind, a good takeaway when you first look at this map is that there's a theme in the north, especially, of resistance. And so that's something that they've lived with for a long time, that they've had to resist, probably on an individual level in towers and castles, but also as groups of people. So it's different from other places. It kind of defines them. So the name Emilia Romagna comes from, the two regions. And I realized that they're as written. So Emilia is to the east and Romagna is to the west. So like if you're reading it, Emilia is on the left, and so is it geographically on the left, and Romagna on the right. Is that right, Jim? Did I get it right? I think so.
Yes.
Okay. So the name Emilia comes from the Latin Via Emilia, the name of the road, and it's the only road in Italy to have given the name to a region. Romagna was the name of the Eastern Roman Empire applied to Ravenna by the Lombards after the fall of the Byzantine or the Western Empire, the Western Empire. Okay, so to get situated on the map, you have Lombardy and Veneto to the north. And I wanted to pause here and mention, you can see the Po River flowing through there, that forms the border. That's what stopped the Lombards. They eventually made it through, but in terms of the borders, Lombardy, that river stopped the Lombards coming into Emilia Romagna for a minute. And the river is huge. It's the biggest river in Italy. And as we all know, rivers kind of give birth to civilizations. So it makes sense that all these cool places are surrounding it. Tuscany to the south, no slouch there. The Marche we're familiar with. And the Republic of San Marino. Do they make wine there, Jim? We should get a San Marino wine.
I'll work on that.
Adriatic Sea to the east, and to the west, Piemonte and Liguria. So okay, they get a stray lager in there sometimes. Crosses over. Okay, so you see the Po. They do call that Emilia Romagna's jugular vein because it was a marshland and they reclaimed it and it became this really rich land. Okay, so the crazy roads to Rome. This is, you can see the blue road that leads directly to Rome, but the road that we're concerned with runs on the base of the Apennines, and that's the road called the Via Emilia, or the Emilian Way. That brown road that runs sort of diagonally northeast, or it's diagonally from the right bottom to the left top of the map there. And the Emilian Way not only did give the name to this region, but it caused all these Roman colonies to spring up after it was built. So 187, it was completed, 187 BC, excuse me. And then you had Rimini, Piacenza. They called the river Padus. But a lot of the most famous cities here sprung up, Modena, Reggio, Parma, they sprung up because of this road. They moved people in who were ex-soldiers to protect this from being recovered by the Etruscans or what have you. Okay, also, if you're in this area, the next slide, please, Jim. I think.
Yeah,
I wanted to show you the provinces. You can see the orange on the top right is Ferrara. That's where we are today. And try to keep this in your mind as we go to the next map. You can see these are all the provinces. And then we have one that shows kind of the general wine geography. So the blue is Emilia's plains, and the red is Emilia's hills. So more on the east side. And also a lot of rich food there. And then the yellow is Romagna's plains, and the green is Romagna's hills. You can see there's a white area, and I have a feeling that there was a contentious border here, especially when it comes to the wine grapes. So all that white area between the yellow and the blue may have been one or the other. Like, Jim, could you weigh in? Like, we don't really know if this is officially Emilia.
So it's, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about it being Romagna, and I actually spoke with Mirco last night, and I was like, politically, is this Emilia or Romagna? And he's like, well, I feel like it's both, which didn't answer my question at all. But for all intents and purposes, Ferrara, which is the province that we're in, is officially, it is Emilian. So I know that people feel, they may feel somewhat, they might feel Romagnan because of the proximity to the coast, but it is basically the line of demarcation is between the province of Bologna and the province of Ferrara. So that separates Emilia from Romagna.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. So could we see the picture of the Ferrari, please? So this is a place of great industry and great productivity. It is one of the richest European regions, and it has the third GDP in Italy. From the picture, you might guess they manufacture exotic automobiles here. So Ferrari, Lamborghini, Maserati, Pagani, De Tomaso, Dallara, and not to mention Ducati, all come from here. Also great cinema, banking, insurance, and also the largest agricultural sector in Italy is here in Emilia-Romagna. And specifically, we've talked about this before, but I think it was worth going over one more time, is that a lot of the best foods that we think of as coming from Italy or even from Europe, and the traditions that go really way back come from this heart. In fact, this Po River Valley is sometimes called the Food Valley in Italy because of this geography that made it possible to raise up all these amazing things, like pork in particular. Jim, could you just sort of go through the slides? We have Parmigiano Reggiano. I've been practicing my
Look at him go, everybody.
Parmigiano Reggiano. Luckily, they have it written there. But these only come from these places, and they're protected. So Parma ham, or prosciutto di Parma, and this is great because they feed on the hazelnuts that grow here. It gives it this great nutty, deep flavor. So those are also local, and then balsamico from Modena. Don't get tricked by imposters. Jim will tell you where to find the real thing. Some hazelnuts. They also have truffles here. A lot of famous dishes come from here. Oh, mortadella. The name Bologna comes from, bologna, or similar to mortadella, prosciutto, pork loin, and all the cured meats that you would expect here. And also because it is the river mouth of the Po, the Delta, that there is a lot of great fish and seafood coming from here. It is also an economic and tourist center, by the way. One of the best places to see in Europe, according to the Lonely Planet Guide. And also, as a real kicker to this show, they have a great hiking place on the highest peak in the region called Corno alle Scale. And if you hike to the top, it's likely you might hear someone tell something like, I called the tinnitus or tinnitus hotline, but it just kept ringing.
Nobody likes that joke.
Oh man, maybe they didn't get
say
it.
That. There might be a statue of you on top, though.
Wouldn't that be an honor?
To the top.
And a corn cob, a gilded corn cob. Okay, so let's talk about the history. There are two groups of people that are ancient here: the Umbri, which are, I guess, where the name Umbria comes from, and the extinct language called Umbrian. And they're the first traceable people. And then later came the people in this picture, who were the Etruscans. And this is a 5th century BC fresco of dancers and musicians from the Tomb of the Leopards, from a necropolis. I wanted to mention, I thought it was interesting, I came across a couple of things by Pliny the Elder talking about, so he was talking about the ancient Greeks' opinion of the Umbri. He said that the Greek name for the Umbrian, or the Umbri people, meant those who went through the deluge. So he was referring to them referring to the flood of Noah, and that they were the descendants of one of Noah's sons. I think it was Japheth, I believe. Is that how you say it? Anyway, fascinating.
I thought you said it was Shem.
No. We were talking about where the derivation of the word Semitic, and it was that Shem was one of the three sons of Noah. Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Japheth, I think would be more correct. So the Etruscans in this picture cultivated the vine here, and they sided with the wrong side. They sided with the Phoenicians in the Punic Wars, actually along the lines. So when the Phoenicians lost, or when Africa lost the Punic Wars, the Carthaginians and the Senoni were expelled from this region. And that's when they built the road, and the Romans rolled in and kind of colonized this area. So that was the end of the Etruscans, but they made a huge contribution in the cities. Bologna was originally, I'll get to that a little bit later, it was originally an Etruscan city. So around 7 BC, Augustus divided all of Italy into 11 regiones, and most of Romagna, except for Rimini or Ravenna, was part of this 8th region. Ravenna, actually, this whole area prospered. There were a lot of marshes that were reclaimed during this time. It was a peaceful time. They stationed a fleet there. It had great protection on the Adriatic, but then they moved the capital to Constantinople. And so the fleet that was protecting Ravenna got moved to Constantinople, and they got conquered by, I guess the Visigoths didn't conquer them, but they, on their way to Rome, but they did come back. And then the Franks came, and there was some disagreement as to what actually happened. A lot of people say that Constantine donated these lands to the Pope, to the papacy, after he was converted. Other people say it was Pepin who forged the donation of Constantine, but either way, it was officially moved to the popes, and the Pope had other people, the noble people nearby, rule it. There was a German migration which changed the face of this place, so that was another influence that most of Italy felt. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Bologna, and then we'll move on. I like these towers. I think a lot of people know that this was actually, I mentioned it was an Etruscan city called Felsina, and it was founded at the site of Bologna by the end of the 6th century. So this is a very old city. And these towers are a nice symbol for Bologna and for Emilia Romagna. I got the sense in reading about it, the history, that there was a lot of conflict between families trying to prove themselves. And these are called the Due Torri, and they're both leaning, as you might notice. And the reason they're leaning is because they were overbuilt. These families were competing to see who could build the tallest tower to flex their powerful muscles. And they'd get to a point and they'd have to take it back down a few stories because they'd start leaning. And eventually they had to dismantle them in a lot of cases entirely because they were a hazard. They didn't really have a lot of concrete, I guess, when they built these. They built these two between 1109 and 1119 AD. These two have names, and they're named after the families, the Asinelli and the Garisenda. And these are right at the intersection of the roads that lead to the 5 gates of the old ring wall of Bologna. But yeah, Bologna is famous. They had a lot of towers. Could we see the next picture? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this is an artist rendition. They figure that there were like up to 180 towers at one time. I don't think they happened all at the same time, but it's kind of a cool representation of what it would look like if all 100 were standing at the same time. And there was a lot of competition to build these towers to show off. Jim, could we see the Pope also commissioned a really cool, they have a lot of churches and porticos in the city and great statues. And there's a statue of Neptune that was built here. Jim, could you fire it up? Oh, this is an older, there we go. And there's a story behind this that it had to be altered to be more appropriate. But I'm focusing in on his trident, because the trident was used for one of the local car companies. And I have a picture of the trident next on the car, on the Maserati, which they're directly related. Also, so if you could just hold there, Jim. There is also the University of Bologna, founded in 1088. And they're famous for the School of Medicine, but it was founded originally for the study of medieval Roman law under major glossators. And in spite of being called glossators, they actually didn't really try to gloss over anything. But yeah, this is pretty much a college town, one of the wealthiest cities in Italy, and one of the highest quality of life indices as well. Could we see the Ferrara? I have a beautiful collage for Jim of Ferrara, because he loves a collage.
You know I love a collage. I do.
There's a lot to see in Ferrara. Ferrara is old also. It's also Etruscan. It's crazy. But okay, so going clockwise, you have Piazza Arioestea, Ferrara Cathedral, Corso Martiri della Libertà, Ferrara City Theater, Certosa of Ferrara and the monumental water tower, and Castle Estense. And the Este family was famous. They were the source of the why can't I think of it? Well, they backed a lot of art. Oh, their own Renaissance here, excuse me. And they were actually preeminent in the region's history for politics, military, patrons of the arts. So a lot of the Renaissance palaces in Ferrara were from them. A lot of precious paintings and literary masterpieces as well. Ferrara was also, as I mentioned, an Etruscan town. It was called Spina, and they didn't really have a lot of evidence of it. I've got a picture of some Etruscan jewelry to look at while I talk. Jim, could you show the gold? And that also reminded me, in terms of resistance, Bologna was given, I think it was Bologna, was given a gold medal for resistance after World War II, back with the resistance theme. This is a piece of Etruscan jewelry, but in 1922, they revealed a necropolis with over 4,000 tombs in this region when they were draining something. And so it was a previously unknown population that was hugely influential in antiquity. Could I see the overhead map? And Ferrara, so by the way, Ferrara is near where this winery is located, out by the by the mouth of the River Po. And I thought it was unusual. This is very unlike. This grid pattern runs parallel with the Po River, as opposed to this sort of wheel and hub with spokes that you see on a lot of like piazzi in other parts of Italy. You'll see a piazza and then it'll radiate out like rays of sun. But this has a much more modern looking parallel line. I really want to go to Ferrara. This looks like a pretty interesting place to visit. Also, the Este family, during that time, there was a really large Jewish population here. Out of 30,000 population, there were 2,000 Jews living here approximately. And there were a lot of synagogues. And there's one remaining that I got a picture of here that I thought was really cool. I guess there was a German one and an Italian one. If you could throw that one up, Jim.
Coming up. Yeah, it's coming up. It's a little slow tonight.
So this still exists there, and it was built, I guess, between the 15th and 16th century. From 1421. So there it is. And Jim, do you want to zero in on? I know you have a little something that you'd like to share.
I do. I was so happy to find this because this is also I found this wine shop that's a very famous shop, and it's actually Mirco, the guy that owns this cantina now. He worked at this shop for a long time, and who knew? Full circle that it was Max's uncle's wine shop, Al Brindisi. You know, we often call Max Lil Brindisi, and Al Brindisi, of course, his uncle from Ferrara. So I thought that was pretty cool. That's a joke.
Al's a popular name in Italy.
It is a very popular name. So I just want to share with you a couple of food picks because there are some things that we talk about oftentimes and some things that get swept under the rug. But I like how Max always finds just a picture that's not particularly glorifying for certain foods. And this would be one of them, but this is classic cucina povera here. It's called maltagliati con fagioli. And it's basically the tidbits of the tagliatelle that doesn't make the cut. So you just use it in a scrap pasta, so to speak, and it's served with these red beans, and it is quite classic. And you can imagine with the acidity in this wine and the tartness in this wine, how it would really play off of the richness from a dish like this. And then the other thing I wanted to show you guys is something that they have a lot in and around the Delta, and this is eel. So they fish a lot of eel here, and it's a staple. It's very common to have eel on the plate, to have eel with Fortana. You know, it's that adage, once again, if it goes together, it grows together. And then the other thing that I mentioned to you guys before, of course, is the culatello. I didn't bring up pictures of that, but we've had them in the past. And, you know, just remember, culatello is the heart of the prosciutto. And it's a separate cure from the prosciutto. So they cut out the outside part of the ham and just cure the inside. And it's really, really magnificent. So let's get to the wine. So this was just a screen grab that I took from a movie that I was watching on one of the sites. So the important thing here, of course, Fortana is the grape, and then Vini delle Sabbie. What does that mean? It literally translates to sand wines, or wines of the sand. And that's because these vines grow in, and I'm going to say it once, I'm going to say it again, 90% of the soil base is sand. There's a little bit of clay and a little bit of limestone, but it's a miracle that things grow here, especially grapes and making such wonderful wines. So you can see from this map, we're a little bit, as we look at the cantina itself, where it says Azienda Agricola Mirco Marioti. This is where the cantina is. If you can follow my cursor, this is the Po Delta, this little nug that sticks out here, and it's basically the separation between the Veneto and Emilia Romagna. So there's part of the delta belongs to the Veneto, part of the delta belongs to Emilia. The vineyards in question, they run from the delta all the way down, and I didn't get it on this map, but Cervia is just south of Ravenna. And Max, this is a lot of the confusion over the area that we're actually in, so listen guys, on the back of your bottle, if you see, or not if, but you'll see that this is an IGT wine. It's Emilia IGT, right? So that means it can be virtually anything from Emilia. But the question is that the issue is that there's actually a DOC that, and again, if you can follow my cursor, it runs from the Po Delta, so this little outcropping here, all the way just south of the town of Ravenna. Now, once you get to Ravenna, this is part of Romagna, okay? So we're in both Emilia and Romagna. So Emilia to the north, Romagna to the south as we go down the coast. There's an actual appellation called Bosco Eliceo. Bosco Eliceo, and it's oak woods is the translation. And these woods were all down the coast here. So you got to stick with me here because this could be a little bit confusing. Mirco, the guy that makes the wine, used to be part of the DOC, Bosco Eliceo. Because of the way that he makes wines and because of the mandates of the DOC, he left the DOC so that he would have more freedom in the way that he made his wines. So I'm going to speak today more on Bosco Eliceo, which you will not see on the back of your label, but really this is these grapes, this wine reflects Bosco Eliceo more than it reflects IGT Emilia. Okay, so I mean, it does reflect Emilia, of course, because the grapes are from Emilia. But if we really zero in and think about compartmentalization, then think about Bosco Eliceo. And again, just to remind you, we're talking about from the Po Delta to just past Ravenna. So this is a DOC or a wine growing area that transcends two provincial borders. This is not uncommon. It's just we continue to go deeper down the rabbit hole. I hope that's somewhat clear. So if we look at the provincial map again, you get a better idea of what I'm talking about. So the Po Delta is here, and then all the Vini della Sabbia, right? The Bosco Eliceo runs all the way down to Ravenna. To a small town called Cervia, and Cervia is really it's renowned because it has this wonderful salt from these salt flats, salt plains. So you can see like that would cause a little bit of confusion. There's a lot of confusion over, well, is this Emilia or is this Romagna? And that also like feeds into this because you have an appellation, again, Bosco Eliceo, that transcends both of these provincial borders, but it also not just provincial, but at one point in time regional as well, because Emilia and Romagna were different regions. Oh man, I hope that's clear. All right, Max, this is my thesis statement right here. Okay, guys, this is what we're dealing with. This is yep. You have these wonderful grapes. Max is going to tell you a little more background on Fortana. And what you see coming out of this person's hand is exactly what it's growing in. It can't get lost on you. It's super important. You're talking about an area that, as we move through some of the slides here, you see this is part of the, it's called Valle Comacchio. And this is another little delta marsh kind of brackish area just south of the growing area that we're talking about today, or where our vineyards are today, and also south of the Po River Delta. So here's the thing. This is what's amazing about this wine. The vines in this wine, I think I want to say they were planted in the 1950s. They're pre-phylloxera. They basically, like the louse of phylloxera, which we've spoken about a few times, it can't live in this soil. Phylloxera is basically what took down all of the European rootstocks throughout the years. There were 2 episodes of this particular pest, microscopic pest that just decimated all of Europe. And that's why most plants in Europe, Germany, France, Italy, Spain, what have you, are planted onto American rootstock or grafted onto American rootstock. So if you've ever heard the term ungrafted, that's what you're looking at right now. These are ungrafted vines. So it's not uncommon to find grapes here that are over 1,000 years old, up to 1,000 years old, 100 years old. So here you go. Here's another really great picture. This will give you a good feel for the area. You know, quite humid. You can see the haze. You can see the sand. These grapes struggle. The heat has definitely been more so lately than before. I don't know. I mean, I would assume that most of you understand and are clear on the concept of global warming or climate change, and that is and I'll talk to you more about that even when we talk about the winemaking, because it's a real thing. You talk to farmers and they'll tell you it's a real thing. I mean, you don't need to talk to scientists. You talk to farmers. I mean, the farmers will tell you that if they've been working their land for 30 plus years, that things are changing. So just a couple other shots of these sandy areas, and then Max, let's talk about this Uva d'Oro.
Yes, we're fortunate to have it. Fortunate. Okay, so yeah, so if you've never heard of Fortana, I'll turn my video on, probably because it's only really grown in Emilia Romagna. I mean, there are a couple of other places. There are a lot of synonyms, the most famous of which is probably Canina Nera. But also one of the reasons it's not ubiquitous is that it had a tough time in the 1980s when international grapes were making their way onto the fashionable scene. So people were growing Cabernet Sauvignon, and it was kind of eclipsing a lot of these local grapes. Chardonnay was coming out, and people were really pumping those wines up. So Fortana is actually jumping back onto the stage again. And up till about the 20th century, Fortana was known as Uva d'Oro, or the golden grape, which doesn't make that much sense when you look at it because it's not gold colored. But I imagine it was as good as gold or something like that. And there was another synonym they called it Frutana, which meant plenty of fruit or very fruity.
Wait a minute. Are you messing with me right now?
No.
Okay.
That's the real deal.
Just making sure. Okay.
Yeah, I think farmers really liked this grape. It was a darling, and it was productive. I was not making that one up, at least according to Didgeridoo Dagada.
Okay. All right.
So this grape was so the interesting thing is, this was documented in Emilia Romagna in the 16th century by Agostino Gallo. And then in 1825, it was documented growing in Lombardy and the Veneto. The only issue is that I think there was a mix-up that I'm going to get into. Oh, and some believe it was cultivated by the Benedictine monks of the Abbey of Pomposa starting in the 11th century, so in the thousands, around the time they were building all those towers. I have a picture of the Abbey, and it is here in Ferrara, or close to Ferrara. If you could cue that up, Jim. If I still have it. Nope. Yep.
Yeah.
So it's still around. And the Benedictine monks, I don't think, are still there. They moved to Ravenna, excuse me. I always get that confused. They left, but they left a beautiful interior. I have a shot of the interior as well. And so there's some evidence that they were cultivating this grape 1,000 years ago in this building. Can I see the interior? Jim, there we go.
So beautiful.
Fortana, in its nature, is a rustic variety. 1999. A rustic variety that behaves like wild grapevines. And I really like tasting grapes that people say are like wild grapevines, because it's kind of like you're going back to the beginning of the evolutionary cycle of what you can taste. I mean, we're lucky we could taste wines on the spectrum of being very refined and polished to wines that are a little wilder and closer to what you would have found if you went back in time. And it does resemble the wildness of Lambrusco. And research suggests that there is a parent-offspring relationship between Fortana and Lambrusco Maestri. So we've tasted a couple of Lambruscos, and now we're tasting what is supposed to be a parent of Lambrusco. So look for the similarities. I mean, I know it's a rosé. It grows mostly in the coastal countryside from the mouth of the Po River at Goro to the source of the Reno River, spelled R-E-N-O, like Reno, the biggest little river in Italy. There is another interesting mix-up. There is a grape called Brugnola grown in Valtellina, typically. And people thought this was the same grape as you're drinking now. And it was used as a blending wine or with other varieties in Sassella and Inferno. It was long considered a biotype of Fortana, but now they know differently. But the thing is, when they were taking census of the grapes, they thought they were counting these grapes in Valtellina as if they were Fortana. And they weren't. They were for someone else. All right, Jim, go ahead.
Okay. I want to. Okay. Wow, you thunder stealer. One thing I do want to mention, and I think at this point, Max, it's been debunked, but legend has it that, and a lot of people in the area will say when you sit across the table from them, that this grape was brought from the Côte d'Or, and that's how it got its name, Uva d'Oro, or the synonym rather, as that came from the Côte d'Or.
Yeah, and the monks cultivated it, so it makes sense. I mean, you could see why they would think that.
Yeah. Okay, so I do want to share one quick thing with you guys. There's this this method of grafting called propagine, and Mirco sent me this video that he shot. This is his vineyards, and he talks a little bit about how he's it's a type of Mysal selection that he does for his vine. So Max, let me know if I got to take my headphones off. So hang on one second, you guys. Sorry.
Take it off. Take it off.
Easy, buddy.
Welcome into our old vineyard of Fortana grapes, into the Helix Wood, in Italian Bosco Eliceo, in Po Delta Park, Italy. We are about in the middle between Venice and Ferrara city, and I would show you a particular practice is named propagine. This is possible because we are in a
No sound, Jim.
grafting. So it's possible.
Is there sound now?
That vine.
Yes.
With this operation, let's put this part of the plant inside the soil and take over. So in this part, under the soil, we have new roots, and it's possible to create a twin plant of the mother. This is very important because the genetic of this plant is conserved, and that possible to have the same characteristics in time without changing. And this is very important because
Max, is my sound up? Are you muted?
Yeah, the thing is not playing anymore. We see your desktop.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. I stopped it there. I just wanted to show everybody the just how these grapes are or how these vines are grafted, for lack of a better term. So basically, the idea is if you think about the way that what he was talking about is they're taking a branch, if you will, for lack of a better term, a branch off of the vine, and they're training it into the ground. It goes into the ground. As it's in the ground, it creates its own roots and creates a shoot that comes. So they train it underground, and then back up onto the trellis, right? The underground part, the new part that's underground, creates its own root system, and it creates another plant off of the mother vine. So this is really important because they're not taking vine clippings from a nursery. There's nothing. They're pulling it all from their own mother vines. Really, just a meticulous, phenomenal way of growing this plant. So that's the name of the method in Bosco e Liceo is called propagine. So this is the name for the method. So I'll just talk a little about Mirco and his work and what he's all about. This is a picture of him. Basically, you know, he's been making wines in this style for a little over 15 years. Some of you will know that this type of wine is quite in fashion right now. This is like a lot of the natural wine movement. They're very into these pétillant naturel, right? So it's like natural bubbles. So basically the way that this wine is created is that it goes through a normal fermentation, but the fermentation is actually in these fiberglass vats that are in a cooler. Again, we were talking about the climate change earlier. He's classically not had to use any sort of temperature control during fermentation, but because of the ambient temperature outside was so warm, he's had to move these vats into a cooler to where the outside temperature at least is cool enough to where he can, you know, have like a quasi ambient fermentation. So fermentation and maceration, which is only 30 days. He used to do one longer, but again, this has to do with the heat cycle. So it's gotten a bit shorter. And then from there, he moves the wine into these concrete vats, right? These big concrete tanks, which are absolutely beautiful. The wine sits here, it ages, and then here's the trick on how the wine's made, you guys. So you have at this point you have a still wine, okay? From here, the wine goes to bottle, and at this point he adds in a little bit of grape must from his grapes, right? Grape must. So that's sugar, okay? And some selected yeast also from his grapes, right? So these things all help get the bottle, the wine in the bottle to re-ferment. So the bubbles that you have in your bottle come from this re-fermentation. In some places, this is often, and in some wines, this can be considered a flaw, like a major flaw. But some producers are able to ride the wave of chaos, as they say. So that's basically the way the wine is made. And again, I want to just reiterate that we do see that this is an IGT wine on the back label, but the only reason that Mirco left the DOC, which is Bosco e Liceo, was so that he could make his wines in a more aligned way of the the representation of grape and place. You know, I mean, this is another thing, like 20 regions, 1,500 grapes. You know, I'll always talk to you guys about grape representation and place representation. That's what we're looking for in wine. And this wine, I'm guessing not many of you have tasted too much like it. And this wine is very, very representative of where it's from and what it is. So Max, I'm gonna pull everything down now, and I think we can start talking a little bit more about
That's the wax museum.
Yeah.
Is that the wax museum or concrete?
I'm gonna send him this presentation. You know, it is a wax museum.
He is frozen in time.
Yes. Yeah, he is. He is. As are you.
Mhm.
Okay, Max.
Well preserved.
Tell me all about the quinine that you get on this wine.
Hi-hat riffs of bitter quinine.
Mm-hmm.
Bone dry,
Okay. All right.
tart red, cherry, sea salt, and some hi-hats.
Wild strawberries. Thank you, Anna, for bringing some normalcy back into this thing. Anybody else?
I did.
He didn't steal your sea salt yet. No.
Sea salt. This
Oh,
is
he did?
mountain salt.
He said it's mountain salt.
From the Alps.
Oh, watermelon. Nice. Carrie. I think, you know what? It's funny because I think Flory would have gotten to watermelon had she not been in here pouring her own wine.
Man.
That's fantastic.
Obsolete.
I love it. I love it. So we got watermelon, we got strawberries. I could see Dusty. We're moving more into texture with that. Yep, I got my cousin from North Carolina. She knows about watermelon. So what else? Strawberries, watermelon. We got any other fruits? Max, you said cherries, but I know that you stole that one.
Uh-huh. Like juicy fruit,
So
jujubes.
Pomegranate. Yes, sir.
Pomegranate.
Okay, let's go into secondary. And if you guys come up with other primary, other fruits, then chime in, please. So what do you got, Max?
Yeah, somebody's saying grenadine in a non-pejorative way.
Mm.
Yeah, there's some citrus. There's like a pithiness to it. Definitely still sour cherries. But the texture has got like a orange pith, like when you get some, or grapefruit, you know, like a sour grapefruit.
Yeah. Quinine.
Yeah.
Pink flowers.
Why?
I also hate agreeing with
Why?
Max. Because you're so fun to disagree with.
Circa bird.
Wait, I just saw somebody else said something that just came through the chat, and I lost it. But it was red fun dip. I love that. That's our New York peeps. I love it. I mean, you know, when you get these kind of tart notes, it definitely and you feel these like grape sweet tarts or cherry sweet tarts. I mean, it really makes sense. I'm wondering, outside of the saline quality, if you guys are picking up herbal things. I know, Graham, you said pink flowers. I'd like to hear a little bit more if you guys agree on pink flowers, like what pink flowers you think that we might be picking up here. And then also, is there any like herbal qualities? I know, Max, you were saying the orange pith thing. I couldn't agree with you more there. But maybe you were referring more to palate than nose.
Carnations.
Carnations cup.
Mm-hmm.
Rose, yeah.
I don't know about
So much
rose.
watermelon.
Is Derek here?
Watermelon. Derek is not here. He'll be here in the next series.
Okay, good.
I'll send him the link, though.
Yes, hibiscus.
Oh my God,
So-
I'm impressed about everybody. Everybody's on point. I remembered when we started, like,
Nobody would say anything.
it was kind of boring. No, but it was
Yeah.
kind of boring because everything it was in, and now everybody's on point. Everybody is like, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's like so spot on. So
Yeah.
it's really, really exciting to see the development of the palate of everybody. Whee!
Well, and they're comfortable too.
Lori's having a good old time. She forgot
Mhm.
to close the door to the east wing. Okay. So what about acidity? Is this a low acidity wine? Is it a medium acidity wine? High acidity? What do we got?
Oh boy. Circa. Is this high acidity, Circa?
I mean, come on, that's a softball. Get in there, Circa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure you got a question for us too.
there's acid in this wine. Yes.
Mhm.
Acid, man.
High acid, right? High acid. What about tannin?
Getting comfortable. It's you too. Okay. those corny jokes are flowing, buddy.
What? I wasn't joking. Everything I've said tonight is serious.
So serious, seriously corny. So let's bring this thing home and then open it up to questions if you guys have them. So acidity high, tannins, they're there, but they're not particularly high or even medium. I would say lower tannin. Texture, kind of, you get a little minerality from that saline quality, right? And I think that's clear. Did anybody make the backyard? Well, if you didn't, and it doesn't seem like anybody did, but I would say that you should save that recipe. I mean, we've made it so many times here, and it's really easy. It's all about the prep work, and then you just put it in the Dutch oven, and then you throw it in the oven. Forget about it for a couple of hours, and it's fantastic. So, all right. Questions?
There's no advantage on this, Jim, right?
You know, I know a couple of people, we've said that we wish it was a warm, sunny day, but and you get that a lot with these kinds of wines. I guess the warm, sunny day, the best part of it is that it's in the glass, right? So even if it is cooler outside, and this is a pretty cool day in San Francisco today, the sunshine is in the glass, right? It really is, and you kind of just have to approach it like that.
But also, Jim, this wine goes great with non-sunny day food, right? Because there's such high acidity, we can
That's right.
drink this wine with yummy, cozy meals that are good in the cold weather.
Yep.
100%. Yeah.
Dandy.
Yep.
Jim, dandy.
Easy. Oh, don't make me come to your rescue.
Jim,
Citizens arrest.
this has no vintage, right? I saw Carrie ask that earlier. This has no
Yeah, there is a lot number on there. I can't really see what it is, but I'm gonna say that it's 19 vintage, because I'm pretty sure the wine just got here in the spring or even the summer of this year. So to the US.
So guys, just applaud to Frederick and Lisa, because it's so amazing, because when you guys go to Emilia Romagna, it's Lambrusco is like water. Like, so they give you a raw glass before you even order. You go to a restaurant and it's like a bunch of slices of different prosciutto and salumi and a raw glass, and they give you Lambrusco, or maybe they give you that. So raw glass is like classic. So I can believe that. Bravo, Frederick and Lisa. That's so traditional. I love it.
It wasn't intentional.
Rocks.
I just love drinking out of our little 8-ounce tumblers, and it seems to go well with a lot of things. But thank you for it.
It totally works. It's like being there.
Yeah.
That's like before you even order, it's like a glass of sorbara and a bunch of salumi, and it's like, oh, this is heaven. I don't even have to say anything or order anything. It's already, they think before you think.
Yeah. Thank you.
So just about the, I don't know much about this grape. It's very, very rare. But what I always tell you guys is always about the land. It's always about the terroir. And if I had to drink this, I will easily say this is Sorbara. So I think you guys did one tasting or maybe two tastings on Lambrusco de Sorbara.
One,
Jim?
yeah, it was the
One.
Falistra from
The Falistra.
Podere Saliciato. Yep.
But this one
Yeah,
tastes
Sorbara's slightly
like a
more creamy
petillon.
and full body than
This
than
one is like a
Fortana.
petillon out of Sorbara, like a funky producer, but like again, it's always the land. It's like this is Emilia Romagna 100%, 100%. And
I
like
just want to be careful with the term funky, Flory, because sometimes that can be construed as like dirty, and this is not. There's nothing dirty in this winemaking.
It's definitely like a petillon natural. That like he's like that he's doing the work, and I can totally see the work. But the wine shows the land 100%, and I think like the best wines should show land, not craft, not winemaking, but the land. So it's really, really fun because I don't know this grape, but I can really see that the guy is doing a really, really amazing, honest work.
Yeah, that's clear. Very, very clear. Yeah. What do you guys got?
Jim,
What
I
if
have a
say
question.
to her? Fire away.
Hans had asked in the chat the notion of training the vine to go into the soil and then establish roots. Is that only this kind of thing because it's sand, as is what I was wondering, or how does that work, you think?
So it is particular to this area, but you'll find this in other places too that are pre-phylloxera, growing pre-phylloxera vines. So you'll see it oftentimes on volcanic, certain islands where the louse didn't make it there, things like that. But and there are other producers that grow things in a similar style, or they graft in a similar way or select in a similar way. But it's everybody has their own little take on how they do it.
But to answer the question, you can do that with any grapevine, just for clarity.
I mean, you just run the risk of well, I guess if it's running off of American rootstock, it's not really a problem, right?
Jim, just like this is an interesting question because when you were showing the show how they do the what was the name again? The
Pagine.
Vagine, yes. It kind of reminded me.
Pro pagine.
Yeah, I never heard that before. Pro vagine. But it actually the work reminds me the old way they used to do champagne. So which they were, but the difference is that they used to bury the shoots and there is only a few producers doing that in Champagne, and it's like a little tiny claw of one of the great, like probably the best champagne you can ever taste is Bollinger Via de V, and it's like a little tiny claw. It's the size of my apartment, and it kind of looks like that. It's all super old vines of Pinot Noir. It cost a fortune, but it's absolutely amazing, and it was kind of like that. It is like the DNA stays in within. It doesn't have that name, and they don't do that in Champagne anymore, but that's the few pre-phylloxera vines that survive. It just remind me that for some reason it looked very, very similar.
There was a great question that came through that said, "Is this wine more about the fermentation than the grape?" And I love that question. So when we're talking about wine, it's about both, right? I know that's not the answer that you want to hear, but it's about both. Because if you taste any of these grapes before fermentation, and then you taste them as the finished product, it's going to be different. So I guess the question would be, how would this wine taste with Charmat method versus this re-fermentation and bottle method, right? So Charmat method, you guys, is tank method. It's not like method champenois, right? It's not the area that Flory was talking about. So Charmat method, the wine is finished in tank. The fermentation goes through in tank. They add the must and the yeast to get the fermentation going again in tank, and then they bottle from there. This is much more secular, where instead of adding these things to tank, you add it to the bottle right before you put the crown cap on, right? So look, you have regular fermented wine, right? It's rosé wine. Still, put it in the bottle. This is the easy way to understand it. You put it in the bottle. You put in a little bit of concentrated grape must from his grapes, right? That he's kept in the freezer. You add a little bit of that in. You add in a little bit of selected yeast. Put the cap on, voila, fermentation starts up in the bottle again. This is what I was saying earlier. A lot of people think that re-fermentation is a flaw in wines, and sometimes it is, right? You don't want your Amarone to start re-fermenting. So is this wine more reflective of the winemaking style or of the grape? I think Flory pretty much summed it up. I mean, this is a direct reflection of terroir, right? Of the soil, of the land where it's grown. I think what's great about this particular wine is, even though it is in this, what's a fashionable style of winemaking these days, the alignment of grape and sense of place is still represented. The other thing I wanted to say, and this is a little bit worrisome, I just want to tell you guys, there was an episode one time where I brought a sick wine, just a beautiful wine, to all my crew at Delfino when I was teaching them about wine back in the day. It was this wine called Bruche, this beautiful wine from Benjamin Zederich. And one staff member goes, "It smells like corn tortillas," right? It's a $150 wine on their wine list. They couldn't sell it for shit because they were like, they couldn't get past, "It smells like corn tortillas." So it was like, it just went through the whole, it was like a wildfire that went through all of them, and the wine wouldn't move. So the moral to that story is, it's fine if you smell corn tortillas. It's fine if you think that it's a little sour and it reminds you of sour beers, but don't go all the way down that road. I encourage you, there's often times where wines give you one thing in the front, and if you work the aromatics, you can get behind it and you find what's beautiful about it. Case in point, you guys, would be the Le Micine wine that we had last week, right? The Le Micine wine, when you first opened it, was quite reductive, meaning that the aromatics weren't really like popping. It wasn't until the end of the show where that wine really just started like just throwing all the aromatic qualities that it had. And so you have to be able to go around what's in the way to get what's right about the aromatics. Sometimes, to be fair, sometimes you can't get around it.
Hey, Jim. So,
yes.
Well, speaking of that, it's like, to me, it's like cheese. There are a lot of incredible cheeses that, I'm like, no, I gotta pretend I didn't smell that and just try it.
That's right. Yeah, totally.
Like we just had this Harbison, which is a cedar wrapped cheese from the East Coast, and it's got a strong pungent smell, but it is sweet and creamy and an amazing flavor. And if I just went by the smell alone, I would not have it. And so
yeah, that's right.
But definitely, it is. It's tricky to get past that little hurdle. I just want to loop back, if you don't mind, about the vine and having it. So I was trying to allude to, and you touched on for a second, that, we've got these vines that are using American rootstock, but if you're bringing the vine back into the soil, it's no longer American rootstock. So is there a chance that you could have a problem then? Because now that is, it's in essence its own rootstock native. Or is there some way that because of the source it's in the soil of American rootstock, it's somehow keeping that? I don't know. It's a complicated question, so you can see where I'm going.
I mean, yeah, totally. And this is the area where we end up with more questions than answers, right? Because I could give you my speculation on it, but what I can't quote fact on this at all. The first thing that I would wonder is if you're growing fruit on American rootstock anyway, does it make sense to do that sort of selection? I'm not sure if it does. That would be the first place to start, because maybe people aren't even doing that. I mean, they might be doing it just to see if it's worth doing, but I think it's probably easier just to get clippings from the nursery. But again, that's just speculation. That's not. I couldn't really answer that. You got any opinion on that, Max?
I think it'd be interesting to try. It's hard to know. I mean, there are so many variables. There are a lot of confounding variables when you make wine. Like a lot of these questions are scientific, like if then questions, like asking Jim about whether it's the yeast or the grape. I mean, I feel like there's a partnership with a whole lot of things that it's not black and white.
I think this is actually a fascinating question that I never thought beforehand. I agree. It actually it puts me out of my box, but it's really fascinating. But if you think about it, there is still around the world vines that are pre-phylloxera. And that tends to be in places that have really, really rough soil. Then this is kind of like coronavirus. There are places that cannot survive. And these places are like sand, tend to be like sand or volcanic soil. And that's where you find your the vines that are pre-phylloxera, like old vines surviving in weird soil where the corona doesn't arrive, or in this case, obviously the illness for the vines. But it's actually a fascinating thing. Like, could they do that in a normal land? Usually normal land or in land where the virus can affect, it will be very dangerous. It will come back again. But I think it's the sand that is saving this.
Sure. The plant. Yeah. I mean, this microscopic pest does not. There's just certain soils that it's not attracted to, and it can't pick up the scent or figure out where there's some grapevines for it to destroy. It's getting wild at the Axelbaum house. Like
quicksand.
All right, guys. Saturday coming up, Bioncalela, be ready. Don't forget December 12th when we start Series 16. Those wines are going to be fantastic. So I hope that you'll all be able to join us for that series. That's what we got for you.
Hey, Jim, I'm surprised that next week we're not doing tequila since we're going to be in Mexico. We should go to tequila and do a tequila with some cool tequila makers.
I suggested Jim do a traditional
on
outfit.
You, and you're making us stay in Morelia, so you don't get to say that. So. All right, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day tomorrow. We'll see you Saturday night. Love you all.
Bye.
Have a great weekend. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Good
Jim
wine.
and Max, this was awesome. Thanks, you guys. This was so yummy.
Cool.
Thank
Oh,
you.
Glad you
good.
liked it, Ann.
Glad you
Thank
Yeah,
enjoyed
if
it.
you, I mean, if you want, just let us know how much you want. I mean, the wine is, I think we can still get it, and I'll just deliver it on the next series for you.
Well,
Unless you
Lori
want it
said there's
sooner.
none available. Does that mean there might be some coming in?
No, it's just
No,
like it's not at the store right now, and I'm on vacation like since today.
Yeah, she's not going to order any while she's away. That's the trick.
You just have to wait a little bit.
All right. See you guys.
Ciao.
Bye, Patrick.
Ciao.
Bye.
Hi.
Oh, that wasn't Patrick? Wait. Yeah, it is.
It's Patrick.
With the long hair. Yeah.
I know. The thing is, oh my goodness. That is insane.
He's got the quarantine hair. The quarantine hair?
Yeah.
All right, Jim. Hey, thanks a lot, man. We look forward to doing a couple.
Of course. All right, Joel. See you, Patrick. Bye, guys. Bye, Circa. See you, Chianti.
Thank you.
Bye, Chianti.
Bye, guys. See you, Mark.